Rocky, he said you're first. That's a good one. When you did not to the least of these, it's all, think about the rest of that verse, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, yea, reward. When you did not do to or for the least of these, what did Jesus say? You did not do it to him. The fearful part of the short season is that it's not a sword of Damascus hanging over our head. It's a thin membrane that, like those receptors that we learned about Thursday night. Pericardium. I wrote that down as DM. Welcome, everybody, to Mudflood was Armageddon. The Mudflood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair, honest, non-violent way. A couple of more people just popped in. So going first in this, I got some dust in my eye. I was at the flea market thing they got going there at the, they sell the food that they grow locally. Then I was riding around. I went and got a picture of a protest downtown. I guess they protest every week. So I got something in my eye there. Wasn't trying to only show one eye like those bad guys do. Have you ever seen this thing? For them, it's an algorithm, rhythm and blues. It's if you don't, you get the blues if you don't show this. They join the club and beat you over the head with it. We'll see if I have any pictures besides this thumbnail thing. Sometimes it's just been showing it in small. Wow. So I am going to go ahead and say the word pedophile because it's a real word, and I'm not monetized. So it's really satanic pedophilism, distraction with the, some of it's all a distraction, man. Come on. Captive non-Jewish slave girls may be married to priests earlier than 3 years old. And the Talmud says the warrior Joshua tested slave girls' virginity by inserting bottles of wine into them. Lie from the pit of hell. This is the same thing. This is Jewish apocrypha. Yet so many believe it as true. Equally as dangerous as you believing the gospel according to Thomas or Maccabees 1 or 2. Those are some dangerous stuff. Did you get a screenshot or read some more of that perverted stuff that the Armageddon was for? It was to judge the Judah. Judah went bad, man. Remember when Ezekiel was laying on his side for a whole generation? You've lived through a whole generation now. Now we just have to hang on a little bit more. So this search, I need one. Do I need another sponge on my microphone? Was spurred by, what's with this? What's the H doing on there? That's not what Talmud teaches young girls regain virginity was what I was looking for. And so then I highlighted sex was sanctioned between, boom, searched it, might have got that other one, got this one with this one. In biblical times, sex was sanctioned between men and young girls. Where? What is he even talking about? Under Talmudic law, that's the oral traditions that our Lord, our Creator, our Messiah, Emmanuel, hated so much that he drove him out with the whip. And asked him, how do you like them apples? The other day I was showing a blank screen, so I have to check. Nope, no blank screen. I'm going to keep showing those pictures. So we're going to be talking about their, but what remains is their insistence on sketchy things, man. Tenses and just messed up, taking one verse out of 100, like Gibberine. One verse out of really, what is it, 180? That 175 of them, Gibberine, are the good guys, the mighty men of God, the mighty God, Gibberine Elohim. So yeah, they faked it. This is a boy. This is a 72 years old. This girl is 4 years older than Do Re Mi. I see signs they can't hide of nip and tuck. It's a dude, man. Put me on the case with Candace Owens. There he is. He's going to fall in love with the 39-year-old woman when he turns 14. This is somebody who knows what happened to this girl. This, now I'm noticing who really has the big hands in this family. Her slash him slash him slash her. Is that the guy that was the chief of police in Maui? And then the guy that was in the Paradise Hills in California, the big Paradise, not Paradise Fire, Palisade. He's got hands like a little baby. And his finger here, is his finger, it's not like mine. Oh yeah, it is. It's a little bit as long. Mine's way longer than those. Come on, let's check her out. Oh, she's got it hid. He's got it hid. So how long have they been doing this? Hey, I don't know why Justin Timberlake just popped in my mind. Who's that? Who is that? It is not Barack Obama's mommy. Stop it. You don't even, now you're just guessing. Snyder said on camera, black athletes excel because of breeding during the slavery era. Whites could no longer play a major part in professional sports if more blacks obtained head coaching positions. So how long did they pretend? You know, when did they start pushing back and people were going like, no, 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 hey, we don't need no black coaches. We need a plan. So they had a plan and they stuck with it. I remember the first time two black head coaches coached against each other. It was, I don't remember the year, Tony Dungy and Lovie Smith was coaching for the, believe it or not, the man got Lovie Smith to go to the Super Bowl with a quarterback named Rex Grossman, and they almost beat. They had to. the Colts with the Peyton Manning with his first rigged Super Bowl, they almost beat them. The Colts barely beat the Bears. And the Bears were just set up because this was their two black quarterbacks. No, I mean, first black quarterback, last name was Williams for Tampa Bay that won a Super Bowl, but this was not. It was two black coaches, Lovie Smith, Tony Dungy. Both of them professing Christians, probably Masons. Right now, I'm speculating. You got to keep it speculating. Wait, what? 4,200 seats? And yet, here's this. Let's use marble here, everything here. There, let's bolt a neon sign on it. Call it a grand opening. Hey, I guess we're not tired of them trying to kid us. Look, I got a bunch of dots here. What's that saying? Refers to how U.S. courts and law books historically declared that a mixed race person with one black ancestor or one drop of black blood should be categorized as black, except unless those people were descendants of the people that were on the Mayflower. Because, yeah, you talk about they were doing some young women then, weren't they? And then they, the Indians, the other ones that, not Pocahontas and her husband weren't the only ones those Englishmen were attracted to, but since they came over on the Mayflower or something equivalent, they got exemptions because the one drop rule of black means not white, not Mexican, not native. No way. Zip, nada. No way. They weren't going to do it. Still looking at the pictures because they're so. I don't think I have that many left. But this will be a show that is shocking about racism, pedophilism, Jewish raping people. Could the bread and this, I guess, I did this show yesterday and a little bit this morning. Could the bread be in your sandwich, the pasta in your salad? Or is it the GMO wheat that's making you, if you are depressed? Not everyone's depressed. Some people are. They're depressed, they can't go poop. Or they poop all the time if they're doing too much of that synthroid. That's my non-medical opinion as the Salt Paco, self-proclaimed prophet, not doctor. Theory that scientists are avidly exploring, really after 25, 30 years, studies showing a link between gluten and an array of mental conditions. I'm going to cuss, so if you got an affinity for that, I'm going to read that sentence again, and then I'm going to give my thing that I want you to follow with 3 explanation points. Your ears are sensitive, cover them. This is the theory that scientists are avidly exploring with studies showing the link between gluten and an array of mental health conditions, from ADHD to schizophrenia, from gluten. And they've known it since the 70s. I'm not going to cuss. I was going to say no fucking shit. They're trying to kill you. First, they want to have you get diabetes and just see how long you can hang on and cut your legs off so they can make money off you until you die. And then colostomies, they just want to do that because it's like they're laughing at you. And I think it costs, who knows, maybe what, $100 or something. Huh. So this guy, Gates, he's like this guy, Gannon. like this guy from the Palisade Fire, Paradise Fire, Maui fires. They always have one of these sheriffs in where they just are. Anyway, ceiling tiles, some sort of Sirhan, a young man took a bunch of pictures and they all disappeared. I guess the other day I said that's fake, and I still think it's fake. Fake, fake, fake. You know what else was fake? What would you say if I told you that one of those sheriffs from Los Angeles, Gates, made famous and only had to retire when they beat Rodney King so bad that it caused a riot? DARE was invented by this guy, Gates, and they did two studies and they found one that worked and one that didn't. Which one do you think they chose? The one that didn't work. DARE wasn't only against drugs, it was against drugs, clothes, and tattoos. Now, if you wonder how come, I'm going to be 68 in October, Lord willing, that the people in the next generation after me, let's say 50 and below, those girls I've never seen so many girls doing meth, heroin, drunks on the street. A lot of homeless are there for not their fault. But I've never seen so many women not afraid to get a tattoo on their neck. They were supposed to be learning because that lasted for 20 years. MK Ultra mind thing that taught the men and the women how to dress like whores, get tattooed up, dye their hair pink, and start marching for gay rights because they did abortion. I'm going to go through a bunch of tabs. Anybody that sticks around, you know that the Lord will require more of you. You want to back out, now is your chance. Because remember the verse I opened up with. What's the fearful part of once you realize? We not only have the golden rule, we have the when you did it not to the least of these. And when your full-time job is whatever you do in 10 hours in front of the YouTube, what are you doing for other people in that time? Is your wisdom
It's all quite suspicious. During this time, a young officer at the LAPD is climbing the ranks. His name is Daryl Gates, and he was just in charge of the intelligence division, but got a promotion to be assistant chief.
He was a narcissist, and his ego was beyond belief.
Gates is about to build an infamous reputation.
A man who Pulitzer Prize winning journalists have called egomaniacal and paranoid. He is responsible for the creation of the SWAT team.
And commits a move that will...
SWAT, the one that they've named TV shows, and they make action movies that don't even really need credible action. SWAT, yeah, Gates, the guy that was in head of LA intelligence in the 60s. And remember, the one drop rule ended, only technically in 1945, but in practicality in 1968, when they passed, laws saying, look, stop it. Or they let them pass the laws. It's all one plan. This is that guy. He did it.
Change policing forever. A brutal, unprovoked raid on the Black Panthers. Meanwhile, the intelligence division that Gates oversaw breaks off into two different categories: the Organized Crime Intelligence Division, or OCID, and the Public Disorder Intelligence Division, or PDID. Almost
I'm going to try to remember 12 minutes. Go.
drugs, crimes, and their own body. All right. Ready? If you said 4 billionaires, 18 multimillionaires, their lawyers, 3 cops, one of whom is a convicted felon, 2 who are involved in corruption scandals, their friends, the NFL player who's at
The guy who did SWAT came up with this brilliant dare idea, and he put an ad in the paper and said, "Who's with me?" And these billionaires said, "Do-re me and all of my friends."
of RFK's assassination conspiracy theories, a boxer who reportedly uses steroids, 2 people on the Epstein list, and this guy who, after the FBI did an undercover sting, caught him trying to launder money to cover up a cocaine trafficking operation. If you said that, then you'd be right.
The DARE program it's nonsense. I mean, we can be honest about it.
By 1995, DARE, or Drug Abuse Resistance Education, was in 75% of all American school districts.
They were against tattoos, drugs, and clothes that meant rebellion. Pink hair wasn't even on their radar.
Thousands of police officers into tens of thousands of elementary schools to teach 10-year-olds to say no to drugs. It was backed by presidents.
People like these DARE officers are making a real impression.
Celebrities.
Little kids doing drugs.
It even got its own national holiday. 100 immediately. The PDID neglects its mission to serve public disorder and focuses on the real enemy.
You know what? I do have to go back because some question the success of DARE. The part about is powerful when he says there's 2 choices. Go.
Program called Project SMART.
The researchers in charge of Project SMART were leaving a school board meeting when a man approaches them.
Actually approached the Project SMART researchers.
His name was Daryl Gates.
And Gates is kind of like, well, what if we can take the Project SMART and just have the police teach it?
Having serious objections to police involvement, they said no. But according to one of Gates's right-hand men,
If you told Gates that he was wrong, he would crush you.
What do
You could do that in the 1960s. It was still racist. Did you remember those quotes about Jimmy the Greek? He was making $750,000, which is equivalent to almost $1 billion a year for making the gambling odds for their point spread, except he couldn't say it was point spreads. They had to always say, how much do you think they'll win by? And then he said that stuff about the black people.
you mean? What do you mean by that? Because 114 million kids went through this program. So what do you mean he'll crush
That's a lot. How many people really are there in America?
you? What do you mean by that?
This idea of like, if only they had known, does not apply.
They fucking knew? Did they know?
So
So the SMART researchers agreed to share their findings. They had been testing 2 different approaches. One of them they found didn't work.
And they said, we found that this affective component wasn't working. We've dropped it. We don't use that anymore because we found that it was not having the right effects.
these researchers had found that it made kids more likely to do drugs
Before it launched.
before it launched. And that's what they told him.
The other side of it, what they called peer resistance training, was more effective. What ends up happening, there's no real documentation of why this occurred, is that they kept the affective education component in.
So the part that they knew didn't work.
DARE kept that piece in.
What do you take from that? Is this just a PR stunt? Or do you think there might be other stuff going on?
So we nailed that down.
Municipal police force, hundreds of agents undercover, and some of them international.
Hundreds of agents in the unit that supervised the undercover officers.
Soon, the PDID starts to get in trouble. They got caught running covert intelligence missions by sending undercover officers into schools, not to investigate a crime, but instead to build political dossiers, signifying that the LAPD and Daryl Gates are becoming increasingly obsessed with power. And
came to spying, he had no rules.
School district is like, you are nuts. A program cannot be developed overnight. Gates approaches smart researchers saying, use my cops for your program. They say, no.
They would send their files on leftist groups to Western goals, and then Western goals would make them accessible.
That's a John Birch thing, I think.
To the FBI.
Western Goals gets added as a defendant right as soon as they entered the Iran-Contra funding network by funding rebels in Nicaragua with the CIA. The founder of Western Goals gets on a plane to South Korea.
In there, or that you don't want anyone to hear it, that you want it to be private. When I mentioned the term confidentiality, what that means is it's something between you and I. It's private.
If a literal confession box isn't damning, I don't know what is. Would you say that it's in line with what you know about Daryl Gates to start a program that inspired kids to act as informants?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have no doubt that it occurred to him that this is a possibility.
As Dare grew, this became a huge problem. More and more kids started turning their parents in. Parents compared Dare to 9. Deputy Chief Glenn Levant, who helped run the DARE program at LAPD, ordered his elite detectives to spend 2 days scouting out a hotel outside of city limits. They were there to catch a thief, which is odd because they were outside of city limits. They're outside of their jurisdiction. Those cops should not have been there. It was revealed that the owner of the hotel was involved with the DARE program board, meaning the police were doing odd things that they usually would not be doing, things that benefited members of DARE's board.
Yeah, it was satanic. DARE, circa 1995, parents compared DARE to the late Weimar Republic in its installation of uniformed, sometimes armed, agents of the state in classrooms to tell children what their attitudes ought to be and to obtain information about family home life. Do you think they needed any help to pick out which one of you guys, you guys, women that are getting gaslit? And they're what are they shooting those messages into your brain or something like that? Oh no. I wish I didn't have 33 vertebrae, and then I would hate everything with 33 in it. But as it is, I'm suspicious when they like it. So don't drink alcohol, smoke tobacco, use illegal drugs. And the curriculum was anti-tattoo. It was anti-tattoo. And that's how do you get kids to do anti-tattoo? Put a fat cop in a classroom. Don't do this, or you're bad. And when you grow up and you realize, wow, cops lie. Well, might as well go out and get me some weed, man. Because weed probably is one of the best things they could do, but not if you put fentanyl in it. What? What is this? Something new?
Definitely think Flight 23 was the 5th plane.
4 commercial airliners hijacked on 9/11.
I sent this to RJ, so we'll get his opinion. Off the bat, RJ, I'm thinking they didn't use this airplane because it was United and they were mostly focused on crashing American Airlines stock because that's where they had most of it invested. But anyway, it goes on and on and on. How to get into a plane. That guy was teaching you how to get into a plane. What I'm saying is that this Flight 23 did have, when they finally investigated it and showed the pictures, the gate was removed, the carpet was disturbed. They left the gate open, and they either took two of those box cutters out and put them in another plane, because they ended up finding box cutters on, instead of flight 303, it was 304. I'll play that part for you because I'm not explaining it right. So is it another rabbit trail? I think so, because we already know how the book ended. Whatever. The Talmud is very complicated. Not every statement is a law. Sometimes it is commentary or the opinion of a certain rabbi. And that says that the standard in the Talmud is that girls can be married and are ready for intercourse at the age of 3. And so are captive slave girls. While boys may be sodomized without penalty between the ages of 3 and 9. Non-Jewish boys only defile the Jew during sex above the age of 9. Mothers who have sex with their 8-year-old sons are not rendered impure from the act. The girls below 7 years old are prohibited from using contraception during sex. These are the standard. This isn't the opinion of certain rabbis. This is the standard, like Standard Oil, Jeez, are you kidding me? So these people, the 0.1%, they're in charge of it all, man. They hit the ground running. They're working for Satan. And these are the 2 verses. Maybe we'll think of some more along the way, but these are the ones I have planned. And he will answer them. The king will answer them, but that's implied. It's he will answer them because it's Jesus talking. He's saying this guy, that guy, he's going to do this and that, and what's going to happen. Let's just get the whole context. We'll start in verse 40. It's right after 41. The king will answer them, truly, I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. Then he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry and you gave me no food. I was thirsty and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger and you did not welcome me, naked and you did not clothe me, sick and in prison and you did not visit me. Then they also will answer, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister to you? Then he will answer them, saying, truly I say to you, as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And those will go away into eternal punishment. But the righteous, those who trust in his steadfast love, will be able to withstand the light entering into eternal life. We can't really go into the word thing right now. I guess I only chose this to another thing. They're going to spy. Look at their spying. They're going to go seek out a place. Joseph spied out Bethel. Joseph sent to descry? Huh? What? He was spying it out. He, the Tokoloth, and the wares of the merchants. What? They did. I didn't want to do it. And they forced me because I don't know what is the Tokola. Traveling merchants, country, governors of Arabia, kings, traders. What was that? What was that verse? Besides that which came from the explorers. So this is interesting. The explorers, and from the business of the merchants, and from all the kings of the West, and from the governors of the land, large shields. Remember, we just talked about this shield. We didn't do the ivory throne. I've done it before, overlaid it with the finest gold. But this thing with the 300 shields of beaten gold, man, businessmen and explorers. Where's that Kobaha thing? I don't even see it. Oh, because it's 15. Here's Hocolum traders. Which ones are the spies? It's not the traders. Because you know that's what I'm looking for. Traveling merchants. Oh, spies. Huh. I guess they always have had that insider trading, corporate spying. And if you think they're not corporately spying inside all of the wide road churches, they're in on it. They're satanic people, man. Wait till you gotta spy out everything. What's this? Pondering politics. Sounds
Happily married and can sing Al Green's song, Let's Stay Together, better than Al Green. Yeah. And Trump cannot stand it. It's driving him crazy. Jealousy is not a green is not a good color.
That from yesterday. Who knows what happens today? The White House chose to respond to that. And this is what they said. Joy Behar is an irrelevant loser suffering from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. It's no surprise that the View's ratings hit an all-time low last
really, this is news? What are they talking about?
Some of the moves they had made to obviously say that they had done things incorrectly in terms of the use of interviews and the like. She wrote, the once independent FCC used its vast power to pressure Paramount to broker a private legal settlement and further erode press freedom. The agency is undermining legitimate efforts to combat discrimination and expand opportunity by overstepping its authority. And she says, after months of cowardly capitulation.
I told you it's happening now, but nobody wanted to be like, you mean the whole thing? Well, no, not the whole thing, but you're, everything, you're one step closer all the time to, wow, I wish I would have.
Congratulations to this administration. What's your response to that?
No, listen, if you step back, what's happening here is, I think President Trump is fundamentally reshaping the media landscape. And the way he's doing that is when he ran for election, he ran directly at these legacy broadcast media outlets, ABC, NBC, CBS. For years, government officials just allowed those entities with execs sitting in Hollywood and New York to dictate the political narrative. And he has fundamentally changed the game. And you see that.
So what are they doing that's illegal? If media outlets have a conservative or liberal bias, what is inherently illegal about it? What are they doing that's unlawful that merits the FCC's intervention? And when you say that Donald Trump is reshaping the media landscape, it sure sounds like you are validating the very premise that was just levied against you. And a similar question is posed.
Yeah, and so, again, when Ana Gomez writes, you're imposing never-before-seen controls over newsroom decisions and editorial judgment in direct violation of the First Amendment, you say what?
I think it's time for a change. And the procedures that we put in place in this deal have lots of precedent. For instance, there's been ombudsmans put in place by the FCC before. We're putting a bias ombudsman in place here. or addressing DEI. The prior FCC during the Biden years put pro-DEI commitments in different transactions, and so we're unwinding that type of approach, and we're frankly taking a trust but verify.
Just a little break. You know, I like to show you and remind you about these things. So here's they made this for the World Fair.
Theater in Chicago threw open its doors Tuesday noon to a waiting throng that immediately filled every one of the 5,000 seats of the new Wonder Cinema Palace. The opening, following a dress rehearsal last night to an invited audience that packed the house, marked the close of one of the greatest pre-opening exploitation campaigns ever executed in Chicago, which was staged in cooperation with the merchants of the
All
Central
fake.
Uptown Chicago Association.
It was supposed to click, and then I would say all fake. So look at the front.
100,000 persons daily will witness and participate in the elaborate program. The Uptown reveals a new grandeur and magnitude among modern motion picture theaters. Erected at a cost of $4 million, it is declared by many to surpass in splendor Balaban and Katz's famous Chicago theater. Among its
Oh, it was made in Spanish Renaissance style? That seems weird. Why? Go.
stage is a radio broadcasting station connected with station WEBH.
The radio was 2 years old?
Orchestra pit, hydraulically raised in full view of the audience during overtures, accommodates 60 musicians. The towers of the entrance rise to a height equivalent to 8 stories. Unlike other Balaban and Katz theaters, which are executed in French design, the Uptown is Spanish Renaissance architecture. The structure of the Uptown Orchestra under the direction of Nathaniel Finston consisted of Capriccio Italien by Tchaikovsky. In most busy districts of Chicago,
It's like the Titanic, except bigger.
Uptown has been viewed by the Businessmen's Association of the vicinity as a decided boom to the growth of the community. The gala events scheduled for the balance of the week will culminate with a prosperity parade on Friday, in which
Prosperity parades. Maybe somebody should look into that. I'm busy. Is that what do we got going up here where nobody's going to see it? Everybody's just into Spanish. So this is the Spanish line? Is that a top hat? No, it can't be.
alone, the $4 million involved in its construction, and the fact that it has a seating capacity of approximately 5,000.
Don't let that picture hypnotize you. It is so full of subliminal art. I didn't say subliminal like I was supposed to. I said subliminal, like George W.
Convey an immediate idea of the immensity of the project. Beyond this, nothing short of fields and deep, rich efflorescence. The velvet hangings and Spanish shawls, the magnificent mural paintings, the curved ceilings with their grip is 213 feet in length and 170 feet in width. The ceiling is 92 feet in height. A feature of the new Uptown is the elevating orchestra pit, which
A little bit of repetition going on there. And a couple more views of it.
ice machines for cooling the Uptown, having a capacity equal to the making of 365 tons of ice per day, were manufactured by the Brunswick.
How many people were alive back then before they did them all in with the lunatic fringe? Stop it. Don't tell me what to do.
In 1993, we were able to rescue people off the roof. So having experienced this somewhat before, we kind of thought that was going to be the same game plan.
You cut car 845 off. 45 space cut you off 10-5.
But as we're approaching, you could start to see the size and scope of this.
You stand by. You stand by what? We'll get the harbor base on. Say what Central Harbor Base, Jay.
We proceeded over to the North Tower.
I'll try to it from the top. There's at least 50 people hanging on.
Oh, you see the top.
Aviation on the air. Aviation on the air. Aviation 3, proceed with the message. People hanging off the windows are about 5 to it from
This is the first time I've seen this video. Did you see the lobby blown out? Right here. The lobby's already blown out. I think that's one of the outside lobbies.
Aviation 3, proceed with the message.
I don't see any wreckage.
People hanging off the windows are about 5 to it from the top.
Dug on it.
There's at least 50 people hanging on.
We proceeded over to the North Tower, and there was an opening by the northwest corner.
Quarter central. 57 stuck 1, proceed, thanks. We're taking a look at the northwest corner of the north building.
Where's that smoke coming from? Hope he spins around to the other side.
I could make out the little
White
pebbles on the
smoke and
roof.
black
I could see
smoke.
the individual pebbles. That's how close we were.
The male hanging on the side of the building on the Church Street side.
We continued circling the towers. If we could have saw somebody there, we would have made a try, but there was nobody up there.
No DNA was ever found of the people that didn't jump. As far as I know. England, land of royals, tea, and horrific pedophile cover-ups. There's your link. Fraudulent expenses to phone hacking. They're satanic pedophiles in power, and they cover it up. And it's only coming out now to have us on the narrow road freak, and those who are not on the narrow road and don't care about satanic people cooking and eating children, they're going to say, I scored big on saving tickets from the company that helps you save money going to see Taylor Swift or whoever is popular right now. You know, those guys, they did it all, you know. It's not only him. 18 presenters, people, they wait for people to die if they were member of parliament, prime ministers. These guys did it. They all did it. It just goes on and on. It's the people in power, for some reason, it's their thing. In the United States, here's a list of political sex scandals. They start here. Affair with Maria Reynolds. Well, they were both married. Who knows what they were up to? Blackmailed Hamilton, who paid to maintain secrecy. Don't tell about my cheating whore wife. I'll be embarrassed. I'd rather pay you the money. Thomas Jefferson, that's, I know you're taught it's nothing. It is a big deal. These children were white, but they had the one drop thing pushed on them. And not that it should matter, but even then it's like, they're white. They're Thomas Jefferson's children. Now they're black. That silence is golden in a way. All these people, look at here, if you're, look at that guy. This girl here, you know what? If those two guys had an affair with her, they weren't the only ones. She was looking for love in all places. She didn't consider anything was wrong. She probably taught other people how to do it. Come on. Let's look at this part here. At right when they were getting ready to do the fiat money. It's all part of the same. Found intoxicated with a stripper, Fanny Fox, in the fountain in front of the Capitol or something. Sting doesn't say if they're men or women. Sex scandal. These are the ones that they put out to cover up their cooking children. Maybe not even cooking them. It just goes on and on. It's never going to end. Ultra conservative leader of the John Birch Society, a United States representative. Did they ever talk about that on the news when this girl fell in love with the 12-year-old? This is worse than the Mark Crone thing. And it was the daughter of a Republican. She was raised to do that. That's what these people do. John Birch Society. It was very famous. Dan Crane, Gary Hart. Multiple women. It just goes on and on. Look at it. I'm going to wait until we see Denny Hastert, because he sums it all up of how these guys get in power, bad power. Bob Barr, of course. Who knows? That's the tip of the iceberg, what I think. Newt? Oh, but he ended up, they shoved some Catholic woman on him. But you're going to write children's books with me. Bill Clinton, come on. We know that didn't end. Gary Condit, Chandra Levy, she disappeared, body found dead. They cleared his name. Mark Foley, hey, young man, you're a nice looking page. AIDS czar. Larry Craig found he had he didn't know that sticking your leg under the other person's stall meant you wanted oral sex. He just said, I have a real wide stance when I take a poop. He was arrested. Pleaded guilty, didn't want to do it. John Edwards. Riley Hunter. Don't show him. That guy did it. 2010. So wait. Did we go all through that and see no Denny Hastert? We see Carlos Danger. There he is. Why? Longest serving Republican, Speaker of the House in history, because he was a pedophile. serial raping children for years, only did 15 months in prison. Third in line to be the president. And I'm not saying I knew Denny Hastert. I knew of him because we had to wrestle in the same, not conference, but district and tournaments, sectionals, regionals, things like that. And his guys were always there going to state. That Granby role, but serial raping of boys. And no Satanism was ever mentioned, but I'm bringing it up as I think it's possible. This is happening since 2017, and this was put out less than 2 days ago. 44 accused. How many got away with it? Toppled politicians and celebrities, but not, I don't remember it be, we understand what they mean by it is a boys club. Who are they trying to kid? They're in charge. Now that Western Goals and the Westminster, okay, so it's not only the United States, they have a Westminster pedophile dossier that they had and they knew about, handed it, in 1984, and then it became unknown, but then it became released, later discovered, after everybody's dead, that everybody was a pedophile, satanic pedophiles, with the help of the women, and it was not only the men, they held the women back. No, this is Blavatsky. She taught Crowley. These guys did it. They're cooking and eating kids while we're hooked on phonics and baseball and crack cocaine, because they bring in the crack cocaine and people go like, this, whatever. The splendid support also quoted examples of the contents. Women complaining her 16-year-old son had become a homosexual after working there. Come on. They knew forever. They did it. You know what they do. You know what's coming. You know what the Bible teaches what's coming. How can you do something for the least of these if you're dead because you wanted to keep your 401k and live in the city? Or not even just keep your 401k, you wanted stability? I don't know. What do you want to stay in the city for? Put it in the comments. Nobody ever puts anything in the comments. So they did it. You didn't do it. To get a mentality of, these time in the 70s, Jimmy the Greek Snyder worked there making $750,000, and it's not $1 billion, but it's a lot. He was one of the premier handicappers in the world when you couldn't even mention gambling or the word point spread. And now in the NFL, they have, those, you're either sponsored by people who help you shave your balls because men want their balls shaved, or it's betting. I think Caesar's Palace is involved with a stadium. But he was a little bit of a racist here. I think I have a video of him. Or here's his thing. That was the thing about handicap. He invented it, supposedly. He did it, although it went back to the Greeks, and people did handicapping for polo, bowling, go, chess. He won $10,000 in 1948, getting 17-1 odds for a Truman win. That's how big of an upset they needed somebody to fake drop the bomb. Just get a Freemason. They're probably all Freemasons, but they needed to give them Hell Harry side of the situation. So, like I said, I think I have the video or some of the other videos. If not, you can look up Jimmy the Greek. I must have been looking for more quotes. We can't use Jimmy the Greek in that sense as a scapegoat for the fact that there are still no black baseball managers. There are still no head football coaches. There are still no black players. They limited the amount of players because, they needed to make the money. So, wow, Snyder, 1-year contract. The day before he gets asked these questions and it's all part of the plan. It was the day before the firing. He got fired the day before his 1-year contract was going to expire and he'd get another one. And they saved money and they brought it to the forefront that we can't be racist anymore. Fired. He needed Donald Trump to come in and they paid him $20 to say, you're fired. And he wasn't the only one. Al Campanis. Somehow, he said things like black people not being good swimmers because black people don't have buoyancy. Okay. All right. They have a tendency to mangle and bumble the language. Black people aren't intelligent enough to talk. Within 48 hours, they were calling for the job. This was written when? 2018. It was 25 years earlier. So they didn't learn anything from the 70s with Jimmy the Greek to 2012. Marked the 25th anniversary. Okay, so that's going back they didn't learn anything into the 90s. What was this? On the anniversary.
I believe that they may not have some of the necessities to be, let's say, a field manager or perhaps a general manager.
You really believe that?
Well, I don't say that they're all of them, but they certainly are short. How many quarterbacks do you have? How many pitchers do you have that are black? It's same
Yeah, but I
thing
mean,
applies.
I got to tell you, that sounds like the same kind of garbage we were hearing 40 years ago about players when they were saying, not really cut out. You remember the days, hit a black football player in the knees, and no, that really sounds like garbage if you forget to say so.
It's not garbage, Mr. Koppel, because I played on a college team, and the center fielder was black, and then the backfield at NYU with a fullback who was black. Never knew the difference of whether he was black or white. We were teammates. So it just might be that why are black men or black people not good swimmers? Because they don't have the buoyancy.
This was the mindset of the United States, South Africa, Rhodesia. I got stories about Rhodesia at Christian Liberty Academy, or the Church of Christian Liberty, when they were still in Prospect Heights. They had something like 10,000 guns that they were going to ship. They're told to hold them for Ian Smith. He's going to take over Rhodesia. I have that from the firsthand source.
Impressions of blacks in coaching in the National Football League.
The slave owner would breed his big black to his big woman so that he could have a big black kid. See?
And Snyder said that's why blacks excel over whites in sports.
These comments would cause, in short, a firestorm.
The black is a better
The timing.
because he's been bred to be that way because of his high thighs and big thighs that goes up into his back. Pretty soon they're going to have to equalize it for the blacks for the Greeks, the Jews, and for everybody. I mean, let's make it equal for everybody. You know.
And is it equal? What about in sports?
Well, they've got everything. If they take over coaching like everybody wants them to, there's not going to be anything left for the white people. I mean, all the players are black. I mean, the only thing that the whites control is the coaching jobs. Now, I'm not being derogatory about it, but that's all that's left for them.
CBS Sports immediately acted, firing Snyder shortly thereafter. His comments made headlines. He would give what rioters called a heartfelt apology after his comments aired and picked up steam throughout the country. However, Michael Wilbon of the Washington Post printed that apology. I want you to listen to.
So I made some comments on that. That's what's happening. That's what's going on. And the pedophiles and the covering up of the racism. You know, I did, wanted to show you. I showed you that video on the Uptown Theater. And it does seem that the best of them get the least treatment in Wikipedia. Here it is today in 2011, and here it was in 1980 when it closed.
Where there were adults and plenty of young male children. They were watching videos, and the adults were taking turns. Marcel immediately made the connection based on the party guests that he read about, that this party was related to the Temsi network, which he had busted just recently. And that network, he knew, had sent underage boys to Holland and many others across Germany and the Netherlands. Marcel ended up saying, quote, internet children, kidnapping of children, babies who get children who are tied down, and not the same as the usual Malou. What we are dealing
doors and at the FEZ on computers. They questioned salespeople and supervisors. A description of the boy who was last wearing jeans, t-shirt, and a turquoise backpack with the label Miami Vice was published. Newspapers and television showed a photo. The police combed through the wooded area at the leisure center Fizet, unsuccessfully. Tips that the police received did not lead to suspect, and that the boy just got lost or had an accident and has not been found to this day. Nobody actually believes that. The police initially only conducted one missing person case. Today they refer to the Berlin Public Prosecutor's Office. A spokesperson there said that an investigation is being conducted on the suspicion of homicide, but the proceedings have been ongoing for a long time. There are no new findings.
It was discovered that Manuel had most likely been abducted by and taken to the Netherlands. The Guardian reported in 2000 that, quote, by 1998, however, Dutch journalists had dug out a history of sightings, which suggests.
So, what do you think of it? See how easy it is to pick up a child. We don't have to pay them much. We give them a little something to eat, some clothes, a few coins, a few cigarettes, and we'll go with you. It's very easy. This was their intention. They filmed their own
disc, which he claimed contained more than 9,000 images of children, including some images and videos which depicted brutal, bloody violence and the tying up of young children. There were children aged 4 to 5, children aged 8 to 9, and I saw one child about 18 months. Whose driver fled without stopping. Gina then filed a police report. That's right after one of those calls, Gina's son was out riding his bike. Someone tried to hit him with their car. They knocked him off of his bike. She then filed the police report. And on November 14th, 1998, Gina called Jan Boykins, the president of the Morkoven group, Marcel's group, but she had difficulty understanding Jan Boykins over the phone. According to him, Gina said, with what I found, either Belgium explodes or I am murdered. End quote. So at this point, Gina's getting many threats on her life in the lead up to Dutroux trial in 2004, then to the public via WikiLeaks in 2009. Warmerdam's dossier stated that
you see the WikiLeaks and everything, and that it's coming back into play now. Oh, that's the only coincidence when we've been taught not to believe coincidences.
Dutroux had frequented a local nightclub in Amsterdam called G-Force, as well as 2 hardcore studios called Rex Productions and Roxanne Films. The G-Force club was owned by...
You don't have to turn on the red light.
when you even just see the cover of something like that and you know what happens and who the people that created this thing are, and
It's a snuff movie. It's the Satanists.
time on behalf of the Stasi, telling the press, quote, there were indeed indications that such information could be found in the Stasi material that was leaked to the American Secret Service, the CIA. The Belgian Secret Service would be well advised to evaluate these documents thoroughly, said Byrne, former intelligence coordinator of the Kohl government Schmidbauer. During the fact that Manuel Shadwell's father was an intelligence asset and that supposedly he himself had blackmailed politicians with that they had been recorded in, I mean, that just makes your head hurt, because that means then that all of this stuff was essentially protected by intelligence agencies. That's really weird. It's almost like I've been saying this with every single video that I've produced. Even the Elm guest house, that whole situation in England, the house was fully set up with cameras and recording, and it was protected. Everyone was afraid to speak out about it. People were killed. People disappeared. People didn't talk about it. And every time they did talk about it, it would be shut down, even though there was tons of evidence. Took the liberty of photographing and broadcasting for public identification one of the faces present in the case. Very quickly, feedback allowed Robert Vanderplack, a Dutch, to be identified, end quote. So very quickly after Marcel published some of those images that were found on the Apollo discs, the feedback from the public had allowed Robert Vanderplack, that Dutch, to be identified, which we talked about a long time ago, and that whole Madeira tape and Madeira ring was exposed. Now, in 1997, Marcel gave the Portuguese police a copy involved Edgar, and that's J. Edgar Hoover, thus laying him more open than ever to pressure from organized crime, end quote. Now, Susan Kaufman, the wife of the mob-connected businessman, went on to describe these that involved her husband, Roy Cohn, who would go on to be Donald Trump's, political mentor, J. Edgar Hoover, and teenage boys that took place in New York's Plaza Hotel in a, quote, beautiful suite, one of their biggest, all done in light blue, end quote. Declassified New York government files and spade work by a private detective substantiated the allegation that there was indeed a blue suite at the plaza numbered as Suite 233. Quote, Roy Cohn was providing prosecution. Klotz discovered there were a bunch of involved. That's where Cohn got his power from. Black and told him to come to Chicago to meet with Pine. Hammack arrived on April 24th and called Pine. Kaminsky, Pine, and Hammack then discussed when they should make a play for Kaiser. Hammack called Fellebaum in New York, told him of his discussion with Pine and Kaminsky, and directed him to come back to Chicago. Fellebaum agreed to do so. So you can see right there kind of how this was all going down, and one person would call the other. They identified someone who they felt would be a prime target for extortion and blackmail. They called up their chicken, eventually called up the bulls. The heads of the operation called each other and set the whole thing up. And Kaiser was just one of many whom Hammack worked to extort. And on April 26th of that year, Hammack was
Chicken and bulls. Chickens and bulls.
Gained
This is how they get them to blackmail them.
some sort of political influence, essentially extort politicians and powerful members of society, which is crazy. Like, these are things that we know happened, and they're just saying they didn't happen. And this is another example of that. The United States government encroaching on the privacy of not only, private citizens in this case, but also political figures and people that everybody knows in order to gain influence over them or sometimes extort them. It's really crazy. But make sure you leave me a comment and a like. I hate to keep asking for that, but it shows YouTube that people wait outside of a bar or wherever. They would attract this high profile man, somebody that they knew was, somewhat rich. They had influence, they had money. They'd get them to a hotel room. They would get them into a compromising position, maybe, naked or about to do something to them. I don't.
It's the mafia,
Seems plausible that Hoover might have been in a relationship with one of his closest advisors, a man named Clyde Tolson. The two were lifelong bachelors who were known to dine together every day, take vacations together, and wear matching suits. At Hoover's funeral, it was Tolson who collected the folded American flag handed out by government officials.
According to Burton Hirsch, the author of Bobby and J. Edgar, Manhattan DA Frank Hogan's mid-60s racket squad investigation into the Chicken and the Bulls ring uncovered a photograph of J. Edgar Hoover himself, quote, posing amicably with none other than Sherman Kaminsky, while Hoover's alleged lover, a man named Clyde Tolson, had reportedly fallen victim to the extortion ring. So you got a picture of J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI, with Sherman Kaminsky around. So, in 2022, Donaghy returned to Ocean City to talk to locals and law enforcement agencies that handled the initial investigation. He reached out to Captain Pat Snyder at the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office and then went to the bookstore to check out information on Copper Kettle, the fudge factory. The clerk at the bookstore told him that Detective Longo had directly been involved in Harry's murder and that they had been having an affair. The clerk also claimed that the same man whom the young mother had mentioned was involved too, but that's all she knew. This was just local rumor. She suggested a local author who had written a book about Harry's murder, but would not give Donaghy his name, as he was a local who wrote under a pseudonym, quote, because he knew too much, end quote. Captain Snyder later reached out to investigative journalist Donaghy to say that he was looking for information and later told him that he had found some things and would need to request the public records, which could take months. Enter the 168 pages of investigative material pertaining to Angel Meyer's murder, with almost 100 witnesses, handled by New Jersey State Police, law enforcement agencies, and several others.
So, you know, we've been studying a lot about how bad the police are today, and that it's time to start standing on your Fifth Amendment rights when a cop rolls up on you. And if he just asks you, are you having a nice day? I considered it, and I'm going to start saying, I don't answer any question from police officers because I'm standing on my Fifth Amendment right. And I know that anything I say can and will be used against me. So I'm not answering any questions because it doesn't say you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used against you. It says, no, anything you say can and will be used against you. What part should we not understand when technically Bill Clinton said, as he pointed his knuckle, I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky, one time, not one time. That's the catch. Not one time did I have sex with Miss. I did not have sex with her. Not one time. 100 times. She was under his desk for at one time 3 hours while he was taking phone calls. Hey, I could not wait to get married. Everybody wants to have a baby. We know what that means. It's not called a sex hunch. It's called a sex drive. Everybody has it. It's those guys. They're the weirdos. They're the ones doing the weird shit, cooking and eating kids. And of course, Trump's in on it. This guy again.
We know we have the video footage, we have the photos, we have testimony from, or rather, an admittance from Epstein himself that he and Trump were very close friends for about a decade. I mean, just this idea that they had nothing to do with each other is total bullshit. And just Trump can't handle the fact that this is sticking to him. He is trying everything. And now he's going so far as to just transparently beg with the media and proffer like alternative lines of inquiry and say, would you please stop? And like, I want to talk about this other stuff, you know, referencing Larry Summers, who I believe was either Treasury Secretary or Labor Secretary under Obama or Clinton. Failing my presidential trivia there. Of course, the Obama thing is hilarious to me because, of course, they went full bore on this idea that, you know what, Barack Obama tried to stage a coup. He tried to stage a coup again. The shamelessness of the people actually attempted a coup using somebody else's state.
So this is, of course, a distraction. And they're going to win. That's a leftist. And they're relishing, you know, Trump's in trouble. He's going to be exposed. That's part of the plan too, because it's going to be such a kickback in against the right, and the people on the left are going to be like, we should make abortion legally federally this time, throw off all of the constitutional pretending of, you know, that it's a right to privacy. It's legal because we want it to be legal. They're still going to be aborting. Look, it's going to be a narrow road of people who get encompassed about, as we're already being encompassed about, as we're already the frogs in the hot water. Come on, people, now smile on your brother.
Trying to rekindle its revolutionary spirit and either to co-opt its name or to try to turn the party back to a policy of cooperation with the communists. They even waved the KMT flag. The non-communist troops were surprised and quickly disarmed. The local population barely noticed anything. To most appearances, it was just a change in command within the KMT. But a revolutionary committee was set up, made up of 25 members. All of them, including the communists, pledged loyalty to the Kuomintang. The chairman of the Revolutionary Committee was a communist, as was the Secretary General. A workers' and peasants' department was set up. Li Lisan, future leader of the Communist Party of China, was appointed to the Political Affairs Department. Zhou Enlai was in its Military Affairs Department. Some of the other members included a future Minister of National Defense and a foreign minister of Communist China. It plastered the city with slogans like "Down with Imperialism," "Agrarian Reform," "Confiscates estates of over 100 mo." That's about 16.5 acres or 6 2/3 hectares. He Long was in command of the troops. The ordinary soldiers weren't really communist and fell in line because they understood that they would be returning to their home province of Guangdong. They weren't keen to remain stationed in another province and were wanting to get closer to their families. When Zhang Fakui, the overall military leader, learned of this revolt among his soldiers, he acted quickly. Zhang was one of the rebels mentioned last episode who revolted against Chiang Kai-shek in 1929. But this communist-led uprising was in August 1927, and Zhang was still part of the Northern Expedition structure then. He and loyal troops marched on Nanchang, and the Revolutionary Committee and the army groups led by the communists retreated south in the direction of the troops' home province. Zhang retook the city without firing a single shot. The Nanchang uprising had lasted about 5 days. These troops did not march on Wuhan to restore that government or to form their own. The plan seems to have been to travel south to Guangdong. Officially, it was to establish a revolutionary base in the south, and then to relaunch a second northern expedition under communist leadership. But from the common soldier's point of view, he was going home.
Who makes the money off of selling the uniforms, making the boots? How did Hugo Boss in some places, become so famous? Everybody loved their uniforms. Look at those leather boots. Well, they were printing fiat money too. They didn't make any money. There was no German Express. These guys is this, you know, they'll show you these things, but early Shanghai was a mudflood city. The communists did it. It was, you know, they found this and they were going to populate it. They faked the atomic weapons there. Japan was winning their game of Risk.
And purged them from the Kuomintang political party. They were out in the cold, mostly without weapons. The peasant associations and labor unions had few weapons and were no match for the provincial armies and other forces that cracked down on
It's a game.
them. Leon Trotsky in Moscow was very critical of the Comintern party, but the idea of arming the people had traction and was acted on by the Communist Party of China. In July 1927, the KMT's Wuhan government, led by Wang Jingwei, also ended its collaboration with communists. Both camps in the Kuomintang, the right led by Chiang Kai-shek, and the left, led by Wang Jingwei, had ejected communists from the party.
He almost looks white, but they don't. The white people couldn't deal with it, but then they had to deal with it, and now, oh my goodness, you know that it all goes back to the John Birch Society. That the communists killed him. That were pro-Japanese. It was crazy. They made him a first martyr. It's mafias that were running the world. All the leaders were educated not in China, but they went and they learned in the United States, in the Soviet Union. That's what it was called then, and the United States. And when one person, Admiral or Morrison, was talked into lying and starting a war because the United States was saying, you know what, we can fight them. They turned his son, and I believe in his mind, because there's new things released, and I believe that in his mind, he believed his dad raped him and his mom did this and that and the other thing. And if they did, that proves the satanic pedophile thing. And if they didn't, and China just made him think that his mom was a whore and his dad raped him and he hated them all, they punished the admiral by having Jim Morrison die in a pool the day he graduated or the day he retired from the Navy, after hearing his son say, "Father, I want to kill you. Mother, I want to rape you." It is that MK Ultra. It's that deep. It is Nixon's boy Trump. You know what? Have you ever seen a picture of Roger Stone? He has a full back picture. His tramp stamp is of Nixon. I kid you not. Why would I? Am I sharing the screen? I wasn't.
Sixth grade, he was a slightly chubby, asthmatic natural leader, the best kickballer in the school, and president of the student council, which required him to open morning assemblies by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. But then Jimmy got in trouble. He was asked to leave his Cub Scout pack after he refused to follow directions and was unruly with the den mother. In 1955, the Morrisons returned to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where, family members recall, they noticed a change in Jimmy. He gave up his piano lessons and refused to spend time with the family. Living on the edge of the desert, Jimmy became fascinated with the mysterious, prehistoric-looking desert
pudgy.
reptiles,
That's
lizards,
Photoshop.
snakes, armadillos that scurried around the hot, dry landscape. The horned toads fascinated him, little scaly dragons with flicking tongues and nightmare eyes. He hunted them down, seeking their lairs, reading books about them. Desert reptiles became Jim's personal totem, making dozens of appearances in his notebooks on their way to what became a national fetishization at the behest of the future Lizard King. In 1955,
Really?
Commander Steve Morris was assigned to the aircraft carrier USS Midway, and the family relocated again, this time to San Francisco. They moved into a big shingled home in suburban Alameda, where Jimmy began the 8th grade amid the convulsion birth of rock and roll and the epic milestones of juvenile delinquency. Elvis censored on Ed Sullivan, Bill Haley's irresistible comic screams and outbursts that peppered the texts, driving everyone around him crazy. Jimmy's slouched deportment, extreme lack of eye contact, and sarcastic and insolent attitude drove his parents to distraction. His public antics, nose-picking, spitballs, snide remarks, embarrassed the family at Navy functions, and they soon learned to resume high school there in January of 1959. For a few weeks, he stayed with the Morehouse family, who had a son, Jeff, his own age. It would be 5 years before Jimmy was able to return to his beloved California for good. End quote. Now, as mentioned off the top of this video, the infamous incident in Miami from March 1st of 1969, where Jim allegedly pulled out his private during a door show, resulted in a major years-long battle involving Jim Morrison, the FBI, and other government bodies. Here's the full story. This is also from Life Death Legend.
I think this organ player was his handler.
Jim was heavily bearded and wore a full black ensemble with a silver cross around his neck and a black leather broad-brimmed hat banded with a silver skull and crossbones pulled down over his blazing eyes. He looked about as dread as it was possible for a rock star to look in 1969. Jim Morrison was home, back in Florida for the first time in years. He was about as drunk as one could be.
He exposed himself.
He landed in Florida, so he caught a flight to New York instead on March 8th. At this time in early March of 1969, everyone around the doors was completely freaked out about the canceled tour and the enormous loss of revenue, all of which happened as a result of the controversy coming from the Miami show, except for Jim Morrison. He seemed relieved. The whole thing had been on his shoulders, and now he was because of Jim's trial commitments. The atmosphere in off-season Miami was subdued, even morose. The scene at the trial was totally weird. The prosecution rested on September 2nd. Max Fink had 60 rebuttal witnesses. The judge ruled that he could present only 17. The next day, the judge declared an 11-day recess, infuriating the band, which had canceled its tour behavior. In any case, as some of you may know, I have covered Jim and Pam's relationship on this channel a few different times. For those of you who may not have seen those videos, I want to quickly recap the crazy relationship Jim and Pamela had. First, I'm going to read to you an article by Marco Margaritov. This is from allthat'sinteresting.com. Quote, Pamela Corson embodied the free spirit of the hippie generation. An art school dropout, she was determined to pursue art on her own terms and make a name for herself. But ultimately, she's mostly remembered for being Jim Morrison's girlfriend. The beautiful Californian had already embraced the counterculture movement by the time she met the Doors frontman in 1965.
Wow. I wonder what those people would do if they had gone through the DARE program. I think we see a lot of Jim Morrisons in the world who were taught one way or the other to be the guy that they would hold up now, that is probably as popular now as he's ever been. We covered a lot. The Bible verse, you know, if you did it not to the least of them. So that's what I have, and that's where we're going to leave it at. Checking out, seeing there what. You think so? Oh my goodness. I don't know if you're kidding or not. Man, I'd love to see some info on that. You know, because Rush Limbaugh, you know, kept getting cover wives off, you know. Oh, I found a wife on a chat room, you know. Oh, and you're not one of those guys? He is. He was. And I was brainwashed. I voted for Bush twice. I listened to Limbaugh, and I knew, and then later I found out it was a flat earth nation. The golden age has passed. The Mudflood was Armageddon. They added 1,000 years. The Stones are crying out. Systematized a theology for the first time in 400 years where it wasn't a Jesuit that did it. It's gone worldwide, but my blessings are my sleep every night. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame. Adios, amigos.